All right, what's up, everybody? George C.O.C. Samuels here. And today I'm just going to take you through Chef Agent, which is essentially an agent that has been released by the guys at Convex.dev. So if you're not familiar with Convex.dev, they are an alternative to popular database service providers such as Supabase. So this is Supabase. Okay. So when AI editing tools and no code AI editors like Lovable.dev or Bolt.new started coming out, a lot of them were integrating or using Supabase as the preferred database right in the background. But Convex, I heard about on Twitter, and I heard that it was essentially an AI first type of backend. And this really appealed to me because I was noticing that when trying to build anything with Supabase, there'd be so many row level security or RLS errors related to Supabase specifically. Any other database that I was trying to use that kind of had a legacy to it or had been around before a lot of these AI tools came out, we're all experiencing these same types of issues, and it was getting frustrating. But when I started using Convex, I noticed how super smooth it was to essentially build the application and the database structures simultaneously with little to few errors. Just super smooth. And so when they then released their agent, Chef, I was super surprised. One, what you're seeing here is a very familiar user interface related to building applications with AI. And of course, we have more advanced editors like Cursor, like Windsurf, etc. But these sort of interfaces are trying to bring things one into the browser and also make things easier to essentially work with. And I think I really love the Chef agent because it's just super smooth. And the amount of errors that you have to deal with cognitively are madly reduced. So what I'm going to share with you, I'm going to try and share with you a common screen, this right here. Okay. So this error is known as a Vite error. Okay. And it's a bit blurry, so I'm not too sure if this is, okay. So what would happen in tools like Bolt, Lovable, a lot of these AI builder tools is that you'll often come across these sort of error screens, and they're really ugly to look at, especially when you get them a lot. And it gets super frustrating because when you are essentially building stuff, there's a bit of a delay, right? A wait that you wouldn't experience in a traditional coding environment because you just be like searching, your brain is active, you code stuff, fix it, and you're actively problem solving. But when it comes to AI builder tools, you put in a prompt and then you wait and you watch, right? So it's not quite the same, cognitively speaking, when you're dealing with this stuff. So this error would show up a lot. But in Chef, you don't see it as much. And you can actually see stuff as it's happening live. And I think what's great is that they've just reduced any errors to a simple X, right? Which I think is a great UX solution. And if you want to see the error, you can by opening up, right? But you don't need to. And what Chef Agent is doing really well is that it seems to also be reading terminal errors. So if you are an AI builder, you'll know that in other solutions or other editors, if you get a terminal error, you need to use a plugin or some sort of third party to read the terminal error and then copy and paste that error back into this chat area in order to fix it. But the Chef agent is doing all that automatically. And this is the level that we're wanting to get to. And you'll notice here, as it's writing files, it's checking them off, and essentially it will keep going to resolve issues until it's actually fixed. This is one of my pet peeves in working with some of the other AI editor tools, is that it will essentially stop once it hits an error, a significant error, and then you have to do something in order to fix it, right? Nothing wrong with that, especially if you are a senior engineer and you're used to that. But I think if you just want to get stuff done, then you'll want a tool like Chef that will do that for you. Because essentially the only time it stops is when it is actually done and you can actually preview something here. Okay. So with Chef, I have actually used it to help me create this particular platform. Okay. Right now it's called GSD Lab because this is the name of my community where I help people take essentially theory and I help them apply it and get stuff done. That's where the GSD came from. And I've done different forms of GSD over many years. And this is the first time that I actually have a formal lab membership where I bring people in regardless of the tech wave, and I help them apply what I'm learning in real time, but together with them. Okay. Now, why did I decide to create essentially my own community platform? Because there are many out in the wild that I love, but here was my issue. So I was actually checking out this platform here called Disco. All right. I came across it while inside another community, and I liked it. Essentially, what they're going after is an AI first learning platform. And I think they've done a really smooth job of creating a one great UX UI, leveraging AI in a way that feels smooth, feels intuitive, right? And you can see here, this is an example of what the lab started out with and as. Okay. All right. So it's all custom branded to GSD Lab. They got learning modules here that you can use, events. I think you can also do videos inside. They've got chat, etc. Right? So it's actually pretty good. The only problem is their pricing. So they've recently taken a turn where they're moving away from smaller communities and they're going after, I think, more enterprise. So their starting prices are actually, I believe, anywhere from $300 to $500 per month. And if you're somebody who's starting out and you just want to try things out, it's got to be a very steep price for something that there's no clear pathway to go from like small community to large. And I think it's because they're just, again, their target market is going to be more enterprise, and that's completely fine. But it was a shame because essentially I couldn't justify the outlay initially, right? For building out a membership and having something priced that much for features that I might not necessarily use, right? So it can do a lot, but it doesn't do exactly what I need it to do, okay? And so I thought to myself, hey, could I just extract the things that I really like about this, but then use it to essentially create my own version of Disco and do it cheap, fast, and Chef Agent couldn't have come at a better time, because that's essentially what it allowed me to do. And I got to work. And essentially what you're seeing here is an example of what I have put together. Okay. So I took a few key things from different platforms that I liked and put it into this platform. So one, I took the basics of Slack. Okay. So over here, if you go to messages, you'll see a familiar Slack interface over here, right? And let's say news. Right? Say I want to put something related to news. Okay. So I put that here. And essentially these are familiar Slack channels that will only show up when you go into the messages area here. Okay. Now, I didn't necessarily want the chat aspect to be the main or defining feature of this platform, because one thing I learned about remote work and async work is that it is actually a better thing when you take more time to write stuff out. So this is actually why for discussions and exploration, I'm using a forum style setup for the labs. And the reason for this is so that even just visually, thinking of this as a forum will get you to stop and think for a bit before you write. With chat, it is forcing you to move faster, right? Nothing wrong with that. But for the purpose of this learning community, I want people to slow down. And also just observing people's behaviors, they're not always going to be living in this platform. So it doesn't really make sense for it to be chat-based for it. So we've got essentially a Slack-like interface in under messages, and Chef Agent was able to handle this well, okay? And one cool thing is that you'll notice that Chef Agent has been going this entire time that I've been talking. It's about 10 minutes, okay? Because it is sorting out some really important aspects related to cleaning up the code in the background. And this is related to legacy code that actually gets created, right? As you're building layer upon layer with these AI building tools, sometimes there's code that just gets left behind and isn't needed, but sometimes that can actually mess up some of the new stuff that you want to create. So I've asked it to essentially refactor the code and to also clean up any code that isn't necessarily being used anymore, all right? And so that's what it's gone and started doing, okay? So let's go back here. All right. So this is an example of the form. Now, again, this is being done from scratch. I could have used some templates, but I actually wanted to go through the process of creating all this from scratch to test my own ability to create these apps, right? And just FYI, it's only been, I think, actually the last 12 months that I've gone deep into building with AI, and I've learned a lot. My sort of school has been Twitter, and I've gone ahead and applied a lot of this myself using some of the latest tools. All right. So what we got in this particular platform is a forum-based area. We've got a resources area. So if I want to put in anything, I can this way, right? Because our members will often ask for resources. I've actually set this up in a way so that this resources area can be synced to Notion, right? And the reason for that is because Notion is a great place to actually store a lot of your knowledge in general, and you can use it as a database that carries with you, regardless of any new interface or application that comes out. And so I've enabled that ability in the background so that I can potentially manage all the content in Notion and just have it display inside this platform here, or have it synced. Okay. We've got different tags here. We've got the different types. Say I only want to check out the videos, you can do that. Say I only want to see tools, you'll see that here. And then we've got a learning area, which is what I'm building at the same time too. And I'm taking in the lessons from learning platforms like Disco, but again, paring it back down, making it super simple so that it is focused for our members. Since it's a GSD lab, it's all about getting stuff done. And so we want that to be the core focus so that, and everything needs to be as simple as possible. In the admin area, what I've done is I've actually set all this up so that I have basic details for overview. I can see what the user details are. And then we've got settings here that will be set up for other aspects. But this one is the most interesting. So I have this set up with Stripe so that we can actually test things out before we import or reconcile users between this platform and Stripe. And the reason I have this is because I'm going to be moving members over from the old platform in Discord and putting them in here. And I wanted to see if Chef could actually handle first the Stripe integration, but then the reconciliation of the two members, right? And see if we can be like, hey, if we got these members here in our platform, but we've got some folks registered for specific memberships in Stripe, can you actually look at both and compare to see which ones we should actually bring into our platform and which ones we should leave? So if I do a preview, right, what it's going to do here, you can see it's doing a sync. And then, I'm going to close that because there's some people's emails there, right? We don't want to show all of that. But it showed me a list of everybody's user details. And that's exactly what I want. I wanted to be able to see that it could handle the reading of the Stripe data, and it did it perfectly. And so when I'm ready, then I can actually click these buttons and it will import the ones that I want, leave out the ones that I don't want, and away we go. Okay. So for this membership, these are the basics. We've got a profile page here. We can change from light mode to dark mode. We've got a subscription area. And I was really surprised that it just did all of this for me, right? So if I go to upgrade to starter, it will take me to a Stripe page. And it works. And this worked one shot, right? When I say one shot, or if you hear that in the AI space, it usually means if you like put in a prompt once and it works, right? So I'm going to try and get back. I think I saw it. Something happened. Let's see. All right. So we are back. There should be a billing area, right? And again, all of this was essentially done for me, okay, by the platform. And now the beauty of this is that because this is my own platform, I can actually do so much more with it instead of waiting for a development team for a third party that I'm paying for them to go through their priority list for me to get the feature that I want. Using tools like Chef, I can essentially build the feature I want, get it implemented straight away. And members who actually join our lab, when they're paying for the membership, they're also essentially paying for development of this platform that benefits them. And because it's a very collaborative community, people who join the labs, we have an option for monthly challenges. And we call it AI.GSD. But in these monthly challenges, people essentially choose one project or one goal that they want to focus on with a monthly AI fee, and they go ahead and execute that for the month. So members, when they join, they can actually look at the platform, and if there's something that they want to try to create in terms of a feature, they can do, and then actually submit it to a GitHub repo and have that feature integrated into the platform. And I think this is the way that things should be in terms of people working together, finding out your monetization model, but also learning at the same time. So this is the preview for the new GSD Lab, and also a preview of how awesome Chef Agent is from Convex. And if you have any questions about Chef, or if you would like to continue to watch my progress using Chef, then just follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel. It will be at George COC-AI. And for COC, that's SIOSI. And I will keep more of the videos there. For members, I will do deeper dives and have exclusive video and content for my members in GSD Lab for you there. Okay. So there you have it. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you have comments or questions, put it in the comments below. And until next time, we'll speak soon.